Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 229 based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng crossed the distant spacetime and arrived at a desolate void. Based on the spacetime position set by Starlight, a spacetime anchor is needed here. Luo Feng stood there with a thought. He began to use the primordial life and death Tao as the origin to create a holy realm. Creating a holy realm is similar to creating a lord's physical body, but with less difficulty. Because there's no need to consider abilities like movement, combat, etc., it's only necessary to pursue the efficiency of absorbing primordial force and the stability of the world. Therefore, every holy realm can reach the average level of energy absorption efficiency of the true bodies of ancestors and lords. I am skilled in the primordial life and death Tao and the primordial blade path, but when it comes to creating a holy realm, the life route is more effective. Recently, Luo Feng has created one holy realm after another, becoming more adept through practice. Using the primordial blade path as the origin, the holy realm formed is smaller in scale. The energy absorption efficiency is also lower, and the living environment within the holy realm is harsher. In contrast, using the primordial life and death Tao as the origin, the holy realm formed, which Luo Feng calls the life-sacred realm, is much larger in scale. The energy absorption efficiency is about 300 times faster, the living environment is also better, and more friendly to weaker life forms. Considering that the holy realms he constructs will migrate a large amount of life in the future, allowing cultivators to thrive here, Luo Feng naturally focuses on creating life-sacred realms. Rumble ... After spending 12 days, a complete life-sacred realm was formed. Luo Feng looked at the holy realm in front of him with satisfaction. It is not easy to nurture a source world within the endless primordial space. However, for us lords to create this slightly weaker holy realm is very easy. In the Divine Emperor stage of cultivation, more than 99% are born from billions of worlds. It's precisely because creating a holy realm is too easy, Luo Feng can create a holy realm in just 12 days, and in the long ages to come, the number of holy realms he creates can far exceed the number of source worlds under his command. The largest life form that can be born within a holy realm can only cultivate to the world-level primordial. So far, there hasn't been a single lord. Luo Feng also looks forward to the day when a lord emerges from the cultivators of billions of worlds. Let's head to the next place. Suddenly, Luo Feng, come to the council hall at once. Starlight transmitted his voice. Okay. Luo Feng's main combat avatar continued to go and create one life-sacred realm after another, serving as spacetime anchor points. Meanwhile, his avatar also arrived at the council hall of the Land of Origin. Land of Origin, Council Hall. The avatars of 8 lords gathered together. Why summon us suddenly? Lord Nigu asked, as he was previously in seclusion for cultivation. Our original plan was to wait until the new territory construction was finished and everyone was free to talk about the distribution of the spoils of war. Starlight sat there and said, but when I was exchanging resources for the construction of the camp spacetime net, I found that Brother Yuan secretly transferred a considerable amount of resources. Transferred resources? Luo Feng and the others were somewhat surprised. All 8 lords have always been very disciplined in their actions. The spoils of war are divided into 10 parts, with each getting a share, and the rest belonging to the camp collectively. If a lord needs to use them, they have to go through an exchange. I attempted to create a source world, Yuan laughed. Creating a source world is exceedingly difficult and also requires the body of an ancestor as a resource. So I privately transferred the corpses of 2 ancestors and some minor resources. 2 ancestor corpses? Ming Huang frowned. Brother Yuan, in this recent war, we obtained a total of 8 ancestor corpses successively, and some of the corpses are not complete. Jin looked at Yuan. Ancestors like the Dark Rock ancestor, and the Wind-devouring ancestor only had remnants left. I took the corpses of Nightmare and Thousand Eyes, Yuan said. Their corpses are the most complete, and are more suitable for creating a source world. Although even their corpses may not guarantee success, I might still need more ancestor corpses. The 7 lords were speechless. My contribution should be enough, just deduct them, Yuan said. Brother Yuan, your contributions are indeed immense. For countless ages, you have paid out of your own pocket for the group many times. Starlight said, even if you took all the ancestor corpses, it's just a minor issue. Luo Feng and the others all recognized Yuan's contributions. For example, in the recent war, during the negotiations with the Ice Peak camp, Yuan paid a considerable amount of resources out of his own pocket and used his connections to draw in Xiao Saiwei and the others. In terms of contributions, Yuan has given a lot. Much more than these few ancestor corpses. Brother Yuan, during the distribution of the spoils, you could have requested the corpses, and we could have let you have them. Starlight said, but even before the distribution, you've directly transferred them. I feel that you're no longer suitable to keep the spoils of war, nor should the entire resources of the cultivator camp be stored in the land of origin anymore. The land of origin is a mysterious place under Yuan's control. In the past, everyone trusted Yuan greatly. The distribution of the spoils of war was hosted by Yuan. Before the distribution, it was also Yuan who was responsible for safekeeping them. Throughout the long ages, there were never any issues. Brother Yuan, there's nothing wrong with this transfer, Starlight is right. In the future, you are no longer suitable to keep the camp's resources, Ming Huang also said. To manage camp resources, one must follow the rules. I know. Yuan sighed helplessly, Starlight is right. In the future, I will not keep the camp resources and spoils. If they are with me, I can't control myself. Luo Feng, Starlight, Wulan, Ming Huang and others glanced at each other, all feeling uneasy. A lord who can't control himself? Yuan, are you okay? Wulan asked worriedly. Everyone was looking at Yuan, who was dressed in colorful clothing. I feel quite good, Yuan said, looking at his companions. Luo Feng had a headache. The situation wasn't good. Luo Feng, should the camp resources be kept with you or at my time star? Starlight looked at Luo Feng. Apart from Yuan, only the two of them possessed a mysterious land. Keep it with you, it's convenient to access, Luo Feng said. All right. The other lords agreed, as Starlight had been handling matters for countless ages, earning everyone's trust. Brother Yuan, please leave some of the flesh from the 2 corpses you took from me, Nigu said, intending to collect the flesh from the ancestors' corpses, whether refined or not, as long as it was enough to refine the bloodline. That's no problem, Yuan agreed readily. I'll take some leftover materials from the 2 corpses and keep them within the camp resources for everyone to exchange. Taking advantage of the opportunity, everyone distributed the spoils of war. However, aside from Yuan, the 7 lords weren't feeling great. Brother Yuan, something's not right. They were all worried about this older brother, who had dedicated endless years to successfully command all source worlds. Was something wrong with Brother Yuan? The vast river of time flowed on, and the 7 lords gradually became more aware of Yuan's situation. Yuan, at least, was awake and remained devoted to the entire cultivator camp. As for other aspects, he became somewhat, without any taboos, something unconventional. This allowed the 7 lords to breathe a sigh of relief. It was much better than they had imagined. In the blink of an eye, 3,000 million eras had passed since the battle. During this lengthy period, despite a few daring world-level primordial lives attempting to devour the source world origin, they were all met with thunderous strikes from the 8 lords. Those who dared to devour the source world, no matter where they hid, were doomed. As for the ancestors were very patient. Several tens of thousands of eras were very brief for them. None of the ancestors, who weren't undying, dared to devour the source world. Instead, the 3 emperors of Wind and Thunder Sea deliberately provoked, devouring some source worlds, only to be severely punished by the 8 lords, destroying half of their territory and taking half of their kin as servants. The 3 emperors of Wind and Thunder Sea were driven mad with anger, but seeing their remaining kin, they refrained from further provocation. The cultivator camp's governance over all source worlds can be considered stable now. Luo Feng, alone, sat cross-legged in his mysterious land, the galaxy territory, his gaze sweeping across the endless vastness of space and over countless source worlds. After long years of development, over 3 billion source worlds in his territory had entered a normal trajectory. As agreed by the Lords, after annihilating the residual power of innate primordial life and leaving some basic heritage, the life forms of these source worlds would evolve naturally. They wouldn't interfere. 3,000 million eras, and my third Tao, the path of matter, has just reached the ultimate realm of God King, Luo Feng chuckled self-deprecatingly. Yet to start the Divine Emperor stage of cultivation, let alone the billion-fold difficulty of transitioning from half-primordial to primordial. At this rate, I might forever be stuck at the half-primordial material path, Luo Feng speculated gloomily. I'll focus on cultivating blade techniques instead. Due to the painfully slow progress of the path of matter, Luo Feng gradually shifted most of his effort to blade techniques. At least on this path, his power could see a very slow improvement. Throughout the 3,000 million eras, besides refining his original combat techniques, Luo Feng primarily created 2 blade techniques. My current 2 strongest blade techniques. The first blade technique, conceived by understanding the power of the Abyss of Destruction, is as deep as the Abyss blade technique. With a thought, Luo Feng could manifest the share of power from the Abyss of Destruction before him. Though Luo Feng mastered the primordial blade path focused on destruction, he could explore the mysteries of the Abyss of Destruction power. The more he studied it, the more incredible Luo Feng found it. This power encompassed 34 kinds of destructive force, perfectly integrated into one. In this power, Luo Feng discovered ways to combine different forces. Using the primordial blade path, the primordial life and death Tao, and borrowed powers such as the undying power, shadow power, and abyss of destruction from the mysterious land, he experimented with coordination. Google see november.net. Thus, as deep as the Abyss blade technique was born. With deep research, the coordination of the 5 forces became more refined, and the blade technique's power would slowly increase. The second blade technique, utilizing the blood shadow knife's characteristic of slicing through all matter and energy, gave rise to the most compatible blade technique, blood shadow blade technique. Luo Feng continued to quiet his mind. Compared to the path of matter, he preferred to dedicate his efforts to these 2 blade techniques. Luo Feng. A voice sounded. Luo Feng turned to look, and a figure came across space-time. It was Starlight. The basic construction of all the spacetime transmission channels is complete. Starlight smiled. I also plan to take a break for a while. As mentioned earlier, I ask you to join me in visiting a mysterious land. Do you have time now? Starlight had spoken about this matter long ago. I have plenty of spare time, Luo Feng laughed. His blade technique cultivation required a long span to accumulate, and there was no rush. Let's go. Starlight nodded and immediately led Luo Feng away together. Starlight led Luo Feng, as if walking on a map, crossing over one domain after another. Luo Feng discovered an independent spacetime appearing, enveloping himself and Starlight. This independent spacetime carried the 2 lords, rapidly falling towards the depths of spacetime. The continuous descent caused continuous distortion of spacetime. Where is this going? Luo Feng curiously watched the scene before him. You'll find out in a moment, Starlight chuckled. The surrounding spacetime distortion increased, far beyond the scope that normal lords and ancestors could fathom. In the end, Luo Feng and the others suddenly entered a hidden location. Luo Feng looked surprised at what was ahead. In front was a time corridor, at the end of which stood a towering altar. This is the mysterious land known as the Recording Corridor. Starlight stood on the corridor, gazing at the outside world. Luo Feng also looked at the outside world. The endless primordial space had become a giant sphere, reduced by countless times, with the Recording Corridor being the sphere's center. Standing on the corridor, one could see all areas of the endless primordial space. Standing on the Recording Corridor, the endless primordial space is all beneath one's gaze, Starlight said with a smile. The endless primordial space is very magical. From different angles, it shows different forms. Luo Feng nodded. Having observed it from the fluctuation land angle and from the abyss of destruction angle, now observing it from the Recording Corridor angle. Follow me, Starlight walked forward along the corridor. Luo Feng also looked along the corridor's sides. The corridor's walls were engraved with numerous scenes from the history of the endless primordial space. There were scenes of the birth of the demon ruins, the initial, the roaring giant god emperor, the infinite great serpent winding and covering a world group, and Yuan stepping out from the source world alone. This is the past of the endless primordial space, Starlight said. On this corridor, moments significant to the entire endless primordial space are recorded. Luo Feng nodded as he walked and observed. All the 8 lords had moments recorded in the corridor. Nearing the corridor's end, Luo Feng saw his own engraving, holding the blood shadow knife, standing on the 34th layer of the abyss of destruction, with the world envoy of the 34th layer expressing submission to him with respect. The last scene at the corridor's end showed the 8 lords storming into the Ancestor Sides formation core, with blade light cleaving half of the initial Ancestor's absolute sphere body, leaving the other Ancestors terrified. At the end of the corridor was a towering altar. The altar was shrouded by layers of phantom images, making it difficult to peek inside. Occasionally, images would flash on these phantom images. These phantom images? Luo Feng's face changed slightly. Though they flashed briefly, he had already memoized them. A grey-robed woman, Shoju, was in the mysterious land, Tong Valley, where the endless terrifying power gathered on her left and right, completely under her control. Shoju can refine and control Tong Valley. Luo Feng realized the significance of this scene. Luo Feng, don't worry too much about these. Starlight, however, appeared unconcerned, saying with a smile, the more you understand about the future, the more you realize these scenes don't have much significance. Luo Feng listened. What's fixed for now, as for the future? Starlight smiled. Let me give you an example. If 1,000,000 epochs later, there are 100 million possibilities for the future. Then, after 10 million epochs. On the basis of these 100 million possibilities, each possibility can evolve into an average of 100 million possibilities. The total accumulates into 100 trillion possibilities. The further from now, the possibilities of the future will exponentially soar. This is a simple example. While the actual evolution of the future is far more complex, even I can't probe very far into the distant future. Starlight said, what you saw just now of Shoju controlling Tong Valley is probably just one of the innumerable future possibilities billions of epochs later. Luo Feng understood. For the future, we must look at probability, Starlight said. If you repeatedly see the same future, then you need to be cautious. Luo Feng saw another image on the altar's phantom. It was the infinite snake ancestor, forming a truly colossal figure, larger than any life in the current era. Infinite snake ancestor? Luo Feng looked sternly. An undying existence, the longer it persists, the more likely some powerful future will appear. Starlight laughed, though if it only appears occasionally, it holds little significance. Starlight, have you seen any important future recurring multiple times? Luo Feng asked. Starlight paused, slightly nodded. I've seen a future that appeared multiple times. It is a crisis for our cultivator camp, as well as a crisis for the innate primordial camp and the Ice Peak camp. Luo Feng's face slightly changed. Nigu. Starlight said, the source of this crisis is Nigu. Impossible, Luo Feng frowned. Nigu is wholeheartedly for the cultivator camp. Nigu is destined to walk the heart-cutting technique path. Even without the threat of Mogus's soul technique, after prolonged cultivation over years, he will still choose the heart-cutting technique path. Starlight looked at Luo Feng. He will refine and control more and more ancestor bloodlines, 20 kinds, 30 kinds. Multiple ancestor bloodline wills will become sub-wills within him. Do you think that when tens of kinds of ancestor bloodline wills simultaneously influence him, under this group consciousness, does he count as a lord or an ancestor? Luo Feng was slightly stunned. He remembered that Nigu and Jin were both tribulation cultivators. These types of cultivators massacre billions for their own sake. The importance they place on camps is probably not as much as me, Brother Yuan, or Ming Huang. At that time, he didn't care about the cultivator camp or the ancestor camp, only for himself, Starlight said. Of course, that's just a possible future, Starlight said, because it's so distant. Even though I walk across countless timelines of the future, I can't observe it. I've only seen it many times in the altar's phantom. Is there a way to influence the future? Luo Feng asked. By watching the scenes shown by the altar's phantom, I can deduce a lot of information. Starlight smiled. Our endless primordial space is very young and can still accommodate many ancestors and lords. There are still many variables. Now it seems that Tong Valley is difficult to refine, but in the future, Shoju might be able to take control of it. Like one of the 3 mysterious lands, the Fire Prison Wall, we haven't found its origin yet. But I saw in the altar's phantom that the infinite ancestor could utilize part of the Fire Prison Wall's power in the future. And some of our lords, the lords will become even more powerful. Starlight looked at Luo Feng. Even if Nigu truly becomes a threat, I believe there will still be a force to suppress him. For instance, you Luo Feng can suppress him. Luo Feng looked at the layers of phantoms of the altar. Is it possible to see oneself? Luo Feng asked. According to my experience, in the future shown by the altar's phantom, you can never see yourself. Starlight said. Luo Feng didn't care too much, as he was already the strongest of his time, and he was confident in dealing with anything in future developments. Luo Feng, I now need to open the altar and need your help providing energy, Starlight said. All right. Luo Feng nodded. Starlight looked at this altar, immediately began to burn the main battle avatar, and unleashed surging power. Starlight's immense power started pouring into the layers of the altar's phantoms, starting to impact these phantoms, changing them. With his achievements in space-time, maintaining extreme burning of the main battle avatar has a significantly better effect. In just a moment, after consuming the equivalent energy of burning hundreds of main battle avatars, Starlight finally opened the altar. The moment the phantoms of the altar separated, Luo Feng saw a book. The book floated in the center of the altar. Whoa! Starlight immediately split an avatar, entering the center of the altar. And the altar returned to its closed state, layers of phantoms enveloped it. My avatar has entered the altar's core, and it can stay there for a long time. Starlight smiled at Luo Feng. Thanks. That book? Luo Feng inquired. The manifestation of the origin of the mysterious land recording corridor. Starlight smiled. If I can refine it, I can control this mysterious land. Is refining difficult? Luo Feng asked. In the recording land, time and space are only parts. The most core is the causality Tao. Starlight did not hide, but my space-time path is strong enough. Plus, with your help, I can force my way in. In the years to come, I need to cooperate with the origin to become a recorder. As long as I do well enough and spend more time, I can take control of the recording corridor. Luo Feng nodded happily. He saw that book and subtly sensed its hidden powers, which could judge the recording corridor as an intermediate mysterious land. Starlight's increased strength is beneficial for the entire cultivator camp. This altar's phantom cannot see oneself. Luo Feng looked, asking, have you seen mine? Of course, I've seen it, Starlight smiled. In the endless primordial space, your blade is the strongest. Luo Feng chuckled. The aspects of time, space, and causality in the recording corridor were not what Luo Feng was good at. After staying in the recording corridor for some time, he also saw some future possibilities of Nigu, Yuan, and Ming Huang, and eventually, Luo Feng left. In the altar's core. ssnofire.net. Starlight sat cross-legged, holding a pen in one hand and a book in the other, recording. Luo Feng. Starlight looked up. Looking outward from the altar's core, layers of phantoms could also occasionally show scenes. Starlight saw a scene. It was a dim and majestic hall, and the aura emitted by the hall was enough to make the entire endless primordial space tremble. Inside the hall, there was a main seat, and on both sides of the main seat were 108 seats. A towering figure sat on the main seat. That was Luo Feng. Seated below him on the 108 seats were various figures. Among them were demon ruins, Jin, Kafu, infinite ancestor, and even Shoju. The greatest camp of the future. Starlight lowered his head again and continued recording. He had seen this scene of Luo Feng many times before. The days of the lords are dominated by tranquility. Terrifying wars like the battle between the two major camps or the war between the ancestors' side and the Eight Lords are actually quite rare. For lords like Luo Feng, life primarily consists of cultivation, exploring mysterious lands, governing their territories, and spending time with family and teaching disciples. In Luo Feng's territory, a very remote source world, an avatar of Luo Feng is acting as a blacksmith in this source world, transforming the decayed into the miraculous by crafting powerful divine weapons, which is also his way of cultivating the path of matter. At this moment, however, Luo Feng's avatar's expression changes as he looks outside the source world. An impossibly massive serpentine snake, its body so long it rivals this source world. Whoosh! As this serpentine snake arrives, it starts forcibly devouring the origin of this source world. Infinite Great Serpent! Luo Feng exclaimed in shock and anger, telepathically shouting, "Stop!" The serpentine snake glanced at Luo Feng's avatar within the source world, its eyes filled with coldness, sending a mental wave. "Lord Luo Feng, does a mere avatar think it can stop me?" It doesn't care at all and continues to devour. The fluctuations caused by its devouring of the source world origin swept across the entire source world, bringing an apocalypse to countless creatures. Luo Feng watched this scene coldly. His avatar didn't intervene in disputes. Yet he watched many cultivators grow in this source world, and now the extinction of all creatures within this source world still enraged Luo Feng. The day has finally come, the first ancestor daring to devour a source world after the Great War. Killing intent surged in Luo Feng. He knew this day would come. The territory absolutely controlled by the cultivator camp originally consisted of 3,600 world groups and 1,600 world groups in the Southern River Territory, cumulatively covering over 5,200 world groups, covered by the spacetime net, quite secure. But the broader territories were regions occupied by other camp forces, and the cultivator camp only commanded the source world. Even though basic spacetime teleport channels were arranged, patrols and high-level primordial life, world-level primordial life avatars were assigned to help, the garrison forces were still too weak. It couldn't be helped, high-level primordial life and world-level primordial life from the cultivator camp were extremely few. 13 snake ancestors of the infinite Great Serpent clan. Luo Feng looked at the opponent, recognizing the other among the more than 200 ancestors in the endless primordial space. Just an avatar, no need for nonsense. The snake didn't care in the slightest, sweeping over with invisible force, extinguishing Luo Feng's avatar. It continued devouring the source world origin. It always yearned to devour a source world, but threatened by the Eight Lords, apart from the 3 emperors of Wind and Thunder Sea, no ancestor in the endless primordial space dared to devour. It endured too long, and no longer would. It prepared to devour a source world and then hide long-term in the mysterious land Infinite World. 13 snake ancestors of the infinite Great Serpent clan devoured a source world. It's got quite the guts. The first non-undying ancestor to dare devour a source world post-war. Now we await the cultivator camp's response. All forces eagerly anticipated the cultivator camp's response. The council hall in the land of origin. The 8 lords gathered. 1,200,000,000 epochs have passed since the Great War. Yuan sat there, with a half-smile. The day finally arrived. I knew these ancestors wouldn't endure forever. Kill one as a warning to others. Luo Feng's killing intent was the strongest, especially as it's his garrison source world. It must die. It's very cautious. It's estimated that it will return to the infinite world in about a day. Starlight said. Hiding in the mysterious land Infinite World? Ming Huang frowned. That would be troublesome. Infinite World is an intermediate mysterious land. In the external world, the infinite snake ancestor can only utilize part of its power. But within Infinite World, the power of the infinite snake ancestor would surge greatly. The help effect is much stronger than ordinary mysterious lands like Galaxy Territory, Land of Origin, or Time Star. This 13 snake ancestor, daring to devour a source world, must have been prepared. Mo Man said it may soon hide in the infinite world. After some time, it might come out a second time to devour. Repeated devourings, repeatedly hiding in infinite world. The infinite Great Serpent clan can appear close to any source world by using Infinite World. It takes a long time for the main battle avatars of the 8 lords to rush over. It's impossible to predict where it will go next. Starlight shook its head. Even while peering into the future, there are countless possibilities. The only way to kill it is to strike into the Infinite World. Infinite World is no ordinary mysterious land. Wulan expressed concern. Once we take action, the ancestors can sense us. Jin also expressed concern. They might gather some ancestors to help garrison Infinite World, making it hard to attack. This is not an attack, it's an assassination. Starlight shook its head. This battle must be secret. If the Infinite Snake Ancestor summons a large group of ancestors, with dozens guarding Infinite World, no one can shake it. But the ancestors aren't united. Without an emergency, it's impossible for their true bodies to forever guard Infinite World. Starlight said, moreover, the other ancestors are also on guard against the Infinite Snake Ancestor. Luo Feng and the others nodded. Under normal circumstances, each ancestor has its own stronghold, also divided into multiple factions. Follow current S on novelia.net. Within Infinite World, it's primarily the Infinite Snake Ancestor and its subordinate primordial level Great Serpents who guard it. To remain absolutely secret, only we four, Starlight, Mo Man, Luo Feng, and I, can act together, as we can conceal all energy fluctuations, Yuan said. My main battle avatar is currently refining treasures, said Lord Mo Man. I have been refining for tens of thousands of epochs and it could take a few hundred to a few thousand more epochs to succeed. Can this battle be postponed? Can't refining the treasures be paused? Ming Huang inquired. I must suppress with my main battle avatar. If it goes to the Infinite World to fight and leaves only 1 or 2/10 of its strength, the treasures will slip away, Lord Mo Man replied helplessly. Yuan shook his head. The sooner this battle is fought, the better. Quick action has a deterrent effect. The Infinite Snake Ancestor may also be recruiting allies, so the sooner we act, the better, Starlight agreed. The 3 of us should be enough, Luo Feng said, frowning. Starlight glanced at Luo Feng. He could see the futures of other lords but could not see Luo Feng's future, leaving him unable to discern Luo Feng's exact strength. Since Lord Luo Feng thinks it's enough, let's try. Yuan nodded slightly. Even if we fail this time, we can find another opportunity. Surely, dozens of ancestors can't guard the Infinite World forever. Agreed. Starlight nodded in agreement. This time, we will go at all costs, with the fastest speed possible. Luo Feng, Yuan, and I will immediately descend as avatars by your side so that you can help us regain the strength of our main battle avatars. Luo Feng nodded, okay. It was the fastest way to gather. Luo Feng, Yuan, and Starlight joined forces and immediately gathered, sparing no expense to reach the Infinite World with the fastest speed. In the mysterious land known as the Infinite World, the sky was vast, and the dark earth stretched endlessly. As ripples gently formed in the fabric of spacetime from a cloud in the sky, a serpent-shaped creature crossed the ripples and returned to the Infinite World. 13. A cold voice suddenly sounded. The serpent-shaped creature was startled, turning to see the phantom head of the Infinite Snake Ancestor. Ancestor, the serpent-shaped creature responded obediently. I had long decreed that the Infinite Great Snake Clan is prohibited from devouring source worlds, at least not as the first ancestor to do so, the Infinite Snake Ancestor said, furious. It has been just over 100 million epochs and you couldn't help yourself. Ancestor, the serpent-shaped creature protested, we can instantly reach far places and return instantly. If we are cautious, those lords can do nothing to us. You underestimate them too much, the Infinite Snake Ancestor fumed. What can they do to me? The serpent-shaped creature sneered. In the previous source world, Luo Feng's weak avatar was there, and I wiped it out with a single energy fluctuation. The Infinite Snake Ancestor remained silent. You've violated the Lord's taboo, and they won't let it go, the Infinite Snake Ancestor said flatly. If 8 lords join forces to come here, I will have a reason to summon many ancestors for help. But if they don't come to kill you, then you'll have to be careful yourself. The Infinite Snake Ancestor didn't want to say more. He was just one of the 9 emperors. Summoning the true bodies of dozens of ancestors would be quite troublesome. It should be noted that after the last Great War, many ancestors' true bodies have been hidden, and those acting outside are merely avatars. I'll just hide in the infinite world. The serpent-shaped creature immediately burrowed into the dark soil. Perhaps I've sheltered them too much, so even this 13 dares not listen to me, the infinite snake ancestor sighed inwardly. He underestimates the lords and that Lord Luophone too much. In the top tier of the endless primordial space, even becoming a lord is so fleeting. Over 100 million epochs passed, who knows what methods Lord Luophone has now. The infinite snake ancestor remained cautiously vigilant, sensing the positions of the 8 lords. At this moment, many forces were monitoring the lords' positions. They haven't acted collectively yet? The infinite snake ancestor pondered. As he worried, 2 days quietly passed. 2 days are too short for the ancestors. Preparing for one action could normally take several hundred epochs. The infinite snake ancestor suddenly turned to look in shock and anger. A blade light incomparably sharp came from beyond the heavens, cutting through the world membrane to enter this world. As the controller of the infinite world, the infinite snake ancestor was naturally the first to notice. They've come? The infinite snake ancestor was very surprised. There was no sign before their arrival. The lords have come? How is it possible? Inside the infinite world, 15 ancestor-level infinite great serpents felt the sensation and saw that incomparably sharp blade light, instinctively feeling fear. How dare you? The enormous body of the infinite snake ancestor appeared in front of the blade light, with an incomprehensible amount of power converging on it. The power of the infinite world converged on the infinite snake ancestor, and its mere presence far surpassed that of Shoju. It should be noted that when Luophone first refined the Blood Crane territory, after becoming a lord, his power within the Blood Crane territory could increase about 3-fold. The infinite snake ancestor was far stronger than Luophone when he first became a lord. The infinite world could enhance the infinite ancestor's power by about 5 times. This was an immensely terrifying power. In the past, the lords never thought of attacking the infinite world. Read full story at novel-fire-net. The blade light was chilling. With the assistance of Yuan and Starlight, Luophone wielded one of the 2 perfected blade techniques over hundreds of millions of epochs, the Blood Shadow Blade technique, pursuing the ultimate, all things can be cut, characteristic. Sizzle. The enormous and resilient body of the infinite snake ancestor disappeared in a flash before the blade light, as if it felt no resistance, with the blade light heading straight for the distant earth. Not good. Seeing this, the infinite snake ancestor immediately transmitted a message: Inference Fire Ancestor, Infinite Ancestor, Mother of Space-Time, hurry over. At this moment, only these 3 could arrive promptly. At once, 3 thoughts descended. The avatars of Inference Fire Ancestor, Infinite Ancestor, and Mother of Space-Time descended. Moreover, the vast power of the infinite world supplied them, quickly strengthening the 3 avatars, with life cores ready to merge into these bodies at any moment. Inference Fire Ancestor, they need a moment to regain strength, so everyone do your best to block, the infinite snake ancestor transmitted to his 15 subordinate great serpent ancestors, while he also mobilized the power of the infinite world to stop them with all his might. Void Maze? In front of Starlight, all void techniques were a joke. Blocked by infinite power? In front of the blade light, all forces were divided in 2. Quick, stop them. Stop them. The 15 great serpent ancestors were merely ordinary ancestors. The most fatal flaw was that their strengths were very similar, either void power or infinite power. Similar strengths meant their methods of cooperation were limited. Stop! Inference Fire Ancestor roared in fury. At this moment, this avatar had already increased its strength to 50%. Things can be discussed together, Infinite Ancestor also spoke up. We can compensate on behalf of the 13 snake ancestors, Mother of Spacetime urgently added. Whoa! The blade light severed all obstacles, effortlessly cutting through soil obstruction. No, no. The 13 snake ancestors were filled with terror, wanting to escape, But when Starlight arrived at the infinite world, the space-time of the entire infinite world was affected, making it unable to use space-time transmission to leave. The blade light flashed by, passed through the body of the 13 snake ancestors. In the grip of fear, the 13 snake ancestors died instantly, with their bodies vanishing. This video will end here.